Good afternoon, conservation voters. This is Carson Mitchell, FCV's communication manager. Today I'm here with Melissa Sathe with Friends of Our Florida Reefs. How's it going, Melissa?
I'm great. How are you, Carson?
Doing good, doing good. The summer is hot and it is really flying by.
Definitely. School's about to start. It's almost over.
Yeah, just like that. Came and went. Where are you located, Melissa?
So my home is in Cooper City, Florida, in Broward County, and that's where I am talking to you from at this moment.
Fabulous. I'm so glad for this virtual world we live in where we can meet, even though we're literally like half the state away. So tell us a bit about Friends of Our Florida Reefs. Where are you guys located? What kind of work do you do? And what is your role?
All right. So Friends of Our Florida Reefs is a citizen support organization for the state's coral reef conservation program. So their full name is the Florida Department of Environmental Protection's Coral Reef Conservation Program. And as a government agency, it's sometimes difficult for them to raise funds in their own right. So a lot of them have friends groups, and we are their friends group. You'll see friends groups all around the state of some popular destinations like Friends of Rookery Bay or Friends of the Charlotte Aquatic Preserves. So we're the Friends of the Coral Reef Conservation Program. And our main mission is to support them. We do keep a large amount of funds on hand in case of any large coral reef emergencies, such as a ship grounding. We have these funds available that they can quickly access. It makes it a little easier for them to access our funding rather than through some government channels. So we're happy to help. We also support some of particular programs they do, like their Bleach Watch program and their CFAN program, which is the Southeast Florida Action Network. And we help support their reef cleanups, some of their meetings. They coordinate the Southeast Florida Coral Reef Initiative. It's a team of stakeholders in our 4-county area that the Coral Reef Conservation Program oversees, which is from the northern boundary of Biscayne National Park all the way to the St. Lucie Inlet in Martin County. So that's our region. Down south, we have the Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary and, of course, Biscayne National Park. So up north, this is us. And we just support the state's program, and that's it in a nutshell.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that that public collaboration across agencies and, get some nonprofit folks in there. That's awesome. So what types of coral species do you work with, and what are your favorite species?
That's a good question. So as Friends of Our Florida Reefs and as a support organization for our state's Coral Reef Conservation Program, we work with all types of corals that are native to our habitats here in Florida. So we have stony corals, which are hard corals, and that's what most people think about when they think about a coral reef, the reef-building corals that provide a lot of habitat. But up actually in the northern end, which is where we are focused, we have a lot of soft corals, which are beautiful and waving in the ocean. They also provide a huge service to our ecosystem in terms of habitat. And so those are our corals we work with. We also work with everything else in there: fish, sponges, crustaceans, other invertebrates. Algae is a big part of the system, for better or for worse. My favorite is probably one of our more famous corals, the staghorn coral, or Acropora cervicornis. It's on our endangered species list as a threatened species, as are a few other corals in our area. But that's a really pretty one that's branching and provides a really neat habitat for fish and all sorts of critters. So that's my favorite, I would say.
Awesome. Yeah, and you noted something like reef habitats aren't just the coral reefs. They're the fish, the other organisms, big and small, big predators like sharks and, even like sea turtles too.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. And I forgot to mention that I am president of Friends of Our Florida Reefs. So that's my role right now. I took over last year, and I have a lot of help from a nice board of directors, but that's my role in all this right now.
Yes. Miss Florida Reefs. That's awesome. So I guess like part of the state's efforts that you guys support, that a lot of other nonprofit groups support as well, is really making sure that the reef is healthy, that that all of the ecosystem functions are working together as they should. What what is the current state of Florida's reefs?
So the current state is, it's complicated, I would say, is the best word to describe it. We are at the tail end, hopefully the tail end, of a massive disease outbreak in our reefs that started in the Miami region and then quickly spread pretty much all the way through Florida's coral reef up to Martin County, and has made it just recently out to the dry Tortugas.
Mm.
Unfortunately, but it started in 2014. It does seem to be waning a little bit up where it started in the northern reaches, but it did decimate a good chunk. Some estimates are 70% of our stony coral species are lost.
Mm.
And what's interesting, though, is it prompted a massive effort of coordination and partnerships among all coral reef entities, government, nonprofit, academic, and put a lot of smart brains together to try and help. And there's a lot of neat projects coming out of it. So while it does seem a little dire, we constantly have to deal with land-based sources of pollution. This is a unique coral reef compared to other parts of the world in that we live here. There's 8 million people in the South Florida region, and we're basically living on top of this coral reef. The Great Barrier Reef in Australia is a lot more remote. Even Hawaii doesn't support a population as big as we do here in Florida. So we have some very unique challenges, but we also have some very smart people up to the task.
Yeah, that's a great point. And like, not only do we physically live on top of it, but a healthy reef really supports a healthy economy for a lot of people too.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, and like you said, like a lot of institutions are really working to get the science right on this. What does restoration look like for the reefs?
So that's also another complicated topic, and it sort of depends on where you are and what species you want to target. Right now, and this is brand new since this disease outbreak, researchers went ahead of the disease and tried to gather some of the species that were more vulnerable to the disease, which is actually, this disease targeted more of the mounding boulder corals versus our like staghorn type corals. Anyways, they tried to go out and grab a few samples, colonies of these corals, and sort of preserve them for the future and save them, rescue them. So it's Florida's Coral Rescue Program. And some interesting breakthroughs have happened. They've gotten these corals to spawn in the lab, which is a huge breakthrough. The Florida Aquarium up in Tampa area was one of the first to get that to happen. So that's kind of like what restoration looks like right now. The goal is to put these back on the reef when things are healthy for them and safe. But traditionally, there's been large restoration efforts with staghorn coral, just because it was one of our first species to be listed on the endangered species list back in 2006, I believe. And it also grows really fast. You can fragment it, and it can reproduce both asexually that way. It also can reproduce sexually, but you can fragment that coral and grow it in different means. They sometimes grow them on these like lime trees or other cement nurseries. And once you grow them in the nursery, you can outplant them to an area of reef that may have been lacking of that species before. So that's a huge part of restoration down here. We have 2 large Acropora cervicornis nurseries in the South Florida region, on top of what's happening in the Keys as well.
Very cool. So like it's really a couple steps, you're bringing them back to the lab and really like stimulating that growth, and then you're taking them back out and restoring them in their natural habitat.
Exactly.
Very cool.
And yeah, the lab-based coral restoration is a new frontier, and it's exciting to watch.
Yeah, I bet. And how can folks get involved with that? Do Friends of Our Florida Reefs volunteers like go out on dives? Like how can folks watching get involved?
So we don't have a volunteer effort on that front per se. Our biggest push for Friends of Our Florida Reefs is among citizen science, and just taking the average regular diver going out on the water on their fun dive for a weekend and putting them to work reporting to us what they see. So we like to train our local divers in bleach watch, where they can spot bleaching and disease now. That of course includes an effort to help spot this latest disease, which is called stony coral tissue loss disease. And then also reporting to our CFAN network, the Southeast Florida Action Network. So that's our biggest sort of, you can say, volunteer front. We also do reef cleanups every summer. We solicit divers for that. In terms of restoration, there are certain groups that take volunteers out, but not specifically us. I know the University of Miami has, with their coral rescue program, has had volunteers. And yeah, I think they're the biggest ones for restoration volunteers.
Very cool. So even if people can't or aren't necessarily certified as divers, there's a role for everyone to play.
Yes, yeah. We even take reports from beachgoers or snorkelers. Any information is good information.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. Well, is there anything else that you'd like to share with conservation voters?
I just thank you for your time. It's been really fun. Please check out our website. It's www.floridareef.org. And, the state is Coral Reef Conservation Program really started in 2004, and they've grown into a really important program for our region, and they do a lot of great education outreach. You can look up their website too. You Google Florida Department of Environmental Protection Coral Reef Conservation Program. Just spread the word about our coral reefs. We recently rebranded it Florida's Coral Reef, and we consider it a national treasure, and we hope that you spread the word about it.
I love that. I'll definitely share all those links you mentioned.
Yeah.
And
Florida's Coral Reef, let me just double check that one.
Okay.
Because that's it, the newest website. FloridasCoralReef.org.
Fabulous.
That's a really good one to go to.
Fabulous. And something you said just reminded me, like, even though I live up in Tallahassee, or a lot of folks aren't living on that reef, like, it really is our reef. The things we do on land affect our water. In having places like our wonderful reefs to enjoy for generations to come is all of Florida problem, not just a Miami up to St. Lucie, not just a regional problem.
Exactly. And we can even say a national problem. We are the only reef in the continental United States. So
wow.
We should all be proud and conserve it.
Yes. I love that. Well, thank you so much, Melissa. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Carson.